is actually happening in that district of Haryana. We have seen how noon dominated the entire headlines of today's newspapers and of the news broadcast, and today we in fact get you the latest developments happening in Nu. Many accused in the Nu violence have been taken into custody by the Haryana police. 83 FIRs have been registered till now. 165 people have been arrested for the violence and 83 have been detained under the CRPC. Well, the recent clashes in Noon has also led to a series of internet shutdowns in the districts that have been affected by the violence. This is not happening alone in Noon, but whenever there is a disturbance in some parts of the country, there is a local shutdown of internet which can be extended to the state level if the administration wants to. Well, in Nu, one thing is for sure, that there is some action being taken on the ground, especially when it comes to the arrest of the individuals.
I would also like to say, Verghese, that see, these are the visuals which are playing on the screens, are the visuals of those who have been arrested by the
Haryana police. So these visuals that are coming in, of course, are the visuals that show the arrest that has been carried out by the Haryana police, and they have been brought to the local police station for further inquiry as well. These are the first visuals coming in with regard to the arrest of those individuals. Well, to discuss more about this, we have Verghese Pandey with us in the studio, who has been also looking at the entire aspect of what is happening in Nu very closely and monitoring it as well when it comes to the politics of it, when it comes to the security aspect of it. It's been a tightrope walk for a lot of reasons. When it comes to security apparatus, of course, we've been asking as to why they did not see it early as it was happening. But on the ground, when you see the kind of arrest that's happening, there seems to be a lot of pressure to bring the perpetrators to book right now. So it looks like there is some some action happening on the ground. Well,
there has to be action, Verghese, because there's a lot of political pressure on the government. This is happening so close to NCR. There's a BJP government in Haryana, there's a BJP government in centre, so it spoils the narrative of the government, central government as well as state government. The way violence happened and the way the police were caught unawares, and the kind of mayhem which was there for a good half a day or more than that, and the vehicles were tossed, shops were burned, and it was absolute mayhem on the street. So the government was under a lot of pressure to ensure that all those perpetrators are being brought to book, because we have to also remember that the rule of law has to be so majestic that people should fear it. At least the anti-social element should fear it. Here it was not seen, and that is the reason why now more than 169 people have been arrested, and 139 people have been arrested from Nu only.
Nu only, 139 only.
And that is because it also provides a stark contrast to Uttar Pradesh. And that is the reason why now you have started seeing similar kind of political dialogues, because in Uttar Pradesh they say that that no such riot incident takes place, and if it happens, we are going to recover the cost from those who have indulged in these rioting. The same kind of dialogue has now been, the same kind of statement has now been made by Haryana Chief Minister, and because they want to set an example that if you do this in the state of Haryana, you will have to pay the price for indulging in riots. But overall, the way the police approached this entire incident, there are several questions which need to be thoroughly investigated if the state doesn't want a re-repeat of what has happened in Nu.
Well, a re-repeat of it. Let's get in a reaction that's coming in from the ACP of the region. We'll just play that reaction to you right now.
देखिए, नू की घटना को जो अंजाम दिया गया था वो 31 जुलाई को दिया गया था। उसके बाद कुछ चीज़ें एस्केलेट हुई नियर बाय एरियाज़ के अंदर। गुड़गांव उनमें से एक था, क्योंकि बीइंग एन नेबरिंग डिस्ट्रिक्ट गुड़गांव के अंदर भी कुछ छोटी मोटी घटनाएं ज़रूर रिपोर्टेड हुई हैं, जिस दौरान गुड़गांव टिल द डेट आज 3 अगस्त है, टिल द टाइम जो अभी है वो लगभग 22 FIR रजिस्टर्ड हो चुकी हैं। ऐसे जो भी इंसिडेंट रिपोर्टेड हुए हैं गुड़गांव के अंदर, सभी के ऊपर गहनता से मॉनिटर करा जा रहा है, उन चीज़ों को इन्वेस्टिगेट करा जा रहा है, और केसेस हैज़ ऑलरेडी बीन रजिस्टर्ड इन नंबर ऑफ 22, जिसके अंदर अभी तक गुड़गांव पुलिस ने जो इन केसेस FIR रजिस्टर्ड हैं उनके अंदर 21 आदमियों को अरेस्ट कर चुकी है। प्रिवेंटिव अगर एक्शन की बात करी जाए तो लगभग 42 आदमियों को प्रिवेंटिव एक्शन के तहत उनके ऊपर कार्रवाई हुई है। सोशल मीडिया के माध्यम से काफ़ी ऐसे र्यूमर्स हैं, काफ़ी ऐसे वीडियोस पोस्ट करी जा रही हैं जो शायद कहीं और दूसरी जगहों की भी हैं। कुछ ये जरूर मानते हैं कि नू मेवात के अंदर और कुछ संबंधित कुछ गुड़गांव के एरियाज़ में ऐसी गतिविधियों को अंजाम देने की कोशिश करी गई है, हुआ है, लेकिन बहुत गुड़गांव के अंदर बीइंग ए नेबरिंग डिस्ट्रिक्ट ऑफ नू कुछ जिस तरीके का 31 और 1 के आसपास जो एस्केलेट हुआ था, वो सभी जितने भी भी घटनाक्रम थे उनके ऊपर काबू पाया गया है। संबंधित के खिलाफ एफआईआर रजिस्टर्ड करी गई है। ऐसे मिसक्रिएंट्स जो लोग खासकर ऐसी एक्टिविटीज़ में इलीगल एक्टिविटीज़ को अंजाम दे रहे थे उनके खिलाफ सख्ताई से कार्रवाई करी गई है। लोगों की पहचान करी जा रही है, अरेस्ट करे गए हैं, लोगों को डिटेन करा गया है। लेकिन हम ऐसे किसी भी मैं आपकी तरफ से ये एक माध्यम से आपको सूचित करना चाहता हूँ, आम पब्लिक को सूचित करना चाहते हैं कि हम हिंदू और मुस्लिम के खिलाफ नहीं है। हम उनके खिलाफ हैं जो लोग मिसबिहेव कर रहे हैं, मिसलीड कर रहे हैं, गलत एक्टिविटीज़ में इन्वॉल्व हो रहे हैं। तो काफ़ी लोगों के अंदर ये रोष आ रहा है कि पुलिस एक तरफा कोई अगर कहीं पर कोई कार्रवाई कर रही है तो पुलिस के लिए कोई हिंदू और मुस्लिम नहीं है। पुलिस के लिए सब हम पुलिस की जो पुलिस के बिहाफ पे जितनी भी जनता है, जितने भी लोग यहाँ रहते हैं, हम सबकी सुरक्षा के लिए ये कार्रवाई करते हैं। हम प्रिवेंटिव एक्शन ले रहे हैं तो किसी की सुरक्षा के लिए ले रहे हैं। हम नहीं चाहते किसी तरीके से लोग गलत रिमर्स फैलाएं कि पुलिस किसी पर्टिकुलर समुदाय विशेष के लिए काम कर रही है। पुलिस काम कर रही है सिर्फ किसी भी इलीगल एक्टिविटी या घटनाक्रम को रोकने के लिए। तो हमारी तरफ से पूरी कोशिश है कि पुलिस बिल्कुल संवेदनशील होकर इन चीज़ों के ऊपर एक्टिविटी करे, अपनी कार्रवाई करे। लेकिन हाँ, ये बिल्कुल हम वार्निंग देना चाहते हैं सख्ताई से, अगर जो लोग भी इस तरीके की गैर कानूनी गतिविधियों में पाए जाते हैं, चाहे वो किसी भी समुदाय विशेष के हों, उनके खिलाफ सख्ताई से कार्रवाई करी जाएगी, उनको आइडेंटिफाई करा जाएगा और पुलिस बिल्कुल सख्ताई से उनके खिलाफ कार्रवाई करेगी। जुम्मे की नमाज हमेशा से यहाँ अदा होती आई हैं और गुड़गांव पुलिस के बिहाफ पर हमेशा से इंतजाम होते रहते हैं। जो सिक्योरिटी अरेंजमेंट्स रहते हैं हमेशा से रहते हैं और वो खाली जुम्मे की नमाज के लिए नहीं, वो ऐसे कुछ भी इस तरीके के कुछ इवेंट्स आते हैं उनके लिए सिक्योरिटी अरेंजमेंट्स हम जारी करते हैं। और एज़ यूजुअल जो हमारे नॉर्मल जो स्टैंडर्ड प्रोसीजर्स रहते हैं उसके तहत हम अरेंजमेंट्स करते हैं, हमेशा से होते आए हैं। लेकिन अभी मौलाना साहब ने भी एक अपील करी है कि जितने मुस्लिम समुदाय से लोग हैं वो अपने घरों से उस चीज़ के लिए नमाज अदा करें। लेकिन गुड़गांव पुलिस की तरफ से ऐसी रिस्ट्रिक्शंस हम नहीं करेंगे। आप कहीं पर भी कर सकते हैं, अपने उससे कर सकते हैं, लेकिन एहतियातन इन चीज़ों का ध्यान रखें ताकि सद्भाव की भावना बनी रहे। हम हिंदू पक्ष हिंदू समुदाय से भी अपील करेंगे इस प्रकार की किसी भी गतिविधियों को कुछ अंजाम ना करें और आपसी भाईचारा और सद्भाव बनाए रखें, यही अपील करना चाहते हैं। देखिए, कुछ ऐसी जानकारियाँ ज़रूर आई हैं जो खुद अपने बिहाफ पर कुछ लोग अपने घरों को छोड़ के जा रहे हैं। लेकिन हम दोबारा से अपील करना चाहते हैं, हम लगातार पिछले 2 दिनों से यही अपील कर रहे हैं कि गुड़गांव आपके लिए सेफ़ है, आपको किसी भी प्रकार का कोई भय नहीं होना चाहिए। हमने ऑलरेडी अपने नंबर्स फ्लैश कर रखे हैं। गुड़गांव पुलिस कंट्रोल रूम से आप संपर्क कर सकते हैं 112 नंबर डायल करके। आपको किसी चीज़ की रिपोर्ट करना है, आपको किसी चीज़ की असिस्टेंस चाहिए, कोई हेल्प चाहिए, आप सिर्फ 112 नंबर मिलाइए, विदिन 5 मिनट्स गुड़गांव पुलिस आपको रिपोर्ट करेगी। फ्लैग मार्चेस वगैरह करी जा रही हैं, लेकिन अब जो स्थिति है बिल्कुल अंडर कंट्रोल है। पुलिस हर जगह मॉनिटर कर रही है, नाकाबंदी हो रही है, ऐसे लोगों की चेकिंग कर रही है, आइडेंटिफिकेशन करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं जो लोग ऐसी एक्टिविटीज़ को अंजाम देते हैं। तो इस प्रकार से पिछले 24 घंटे में तो कोई घटनाक्रम ऐसा सामने आया भी नहीं है। तो मैं दोबारा से यही अपील करूंगा आम जनमानस से, अपने गुड़गांव के जितने भी लोग यहाँ पर रिहायशी हैं, चाहे वो प्रवासी हैं, चाहे यहाँ के मूल निवासी हैं, किसी भी प्रकार का कोई भय का वातावरण नहीं है। पुलिस अच्छे से मॉनिटर कर रही है, आपकी सुरक्षा और सेफ्टी की हम जिम्मेवारी लेते हैं और आपके माध्यम से हम ये अपील भी बार बार करना चाहते हैं कि आप बिल्कुल भय मुक्त रहिए, किसी भी प्रकार की कोई ऐसी घटनाक्रम नहीं होने दें।
Well, that was in fact the ACP of Gurugram saying that everything is safe, that they are taking action against those who have created trouble and those who intend to create trouble, especially on social media. They're keeping a vigil on that. And also, there is one important aspect that he mentioned here, Verghese, is about people leaving their homes and going to safer districts and away into Delhi because they think, the situation is quite tense and they don't want to stay. So he's saying that don't worry about it. We are there. If you think there is a problem, call us immediately. So some kind of assurance also coming in from the police in Gurugram. But then we are also in fact joined in by AK Jain, former DGP Uttar Pradesh, who's also joining us, and we also have LN Rao, former DCP of Delhi, who's also joining us on Zoom. Let me go first to AK Jain. AK Jain, you have been in the show. We've been speaking about how there has been a failure on the local administration level when it came to this, but finally they are now being quite serious with getting the people behind the riots. They have detained more than 160 people. They have also ensured that 83 FIRs are registered. But can you just tell me that when in a post-riot situation, how does the procedure of law function? Like, how does the police go ahead with the prosecution and other things? Can you just give us that explanation?
SIT will have to be formed, or investigation cell will have to be formed for investigating all these cases post-riot. Evidence will have to be collected, and only then, after vetting, charge sheets will be filed in a court of law. After that, the monitoring will start. But it's a difficult job. That's why I say I have always held this that we should maintain law and order in the state, because once it goes out of hand, then it spreads to neighboring areas. And this is what has happened in Gurugram, Faridabad, Ballabgarh, all these places. Fault was of new administration, new police, and Gurugram is also paying for it. Gurugram has multinational, so many multinational companies, and it brings a bad name to the country if something happens in Gurugram. Gurugram police has been alert, and arrest should be made of all those antisocial elements who have burnt mosque or who have killed some imam and looted shop. Drastic action should be taken against such elements. These elements should not be allowed to go away with it. Number two, in Nu, arrests are being made, but I don't think they are enough. People should be picked up. People should be picked up who attacked the cyber police station, because they must be, all of them must be cyber criminals who are involved and who had been raided 2 months back by Haryana police. So all those criminals involved, cyber criminals involved, because they are making huge amount of money. It has surpassed Jamtara also. So all these criminals should be booked, and very drastic action needs to be taken in Nu also, and only then situation will normalize, because Hindu, the other community will also realize that government is taking action, police department is taking action against criminals who are involved behind violence. And if they get a feeling that enough is not being done, then naturally they will try to take law into their hands. This is what had happened, in my opinion, on that day. Because police did not take action, there were thousands of them. I don't think there was proper briefing, the route was sanitized and proper action was taken. Drones should have been deployed. Haryana is an advanced state. They can spend some money on all these measures, and the entire route should have been sanitized. When I was young, we used to do foot patrolling on the entire route. We used to clear the encroachments that were falling in the way, so that there is no obstruction in the route of the procession. And arrangements used to be made. Police pickets used to be posted at sensitive places. They used to be given separate briefing. I don't think this was done. Mindless deployment was done without briefing, and this is what has resulted in this kind of violence and destruction of property. Now Mr. Khattar is saying that recovery will be made from these people. How can he make recovery? There has to be an act for it. UP has passed an act for it, and the UP government and the state police is acting on that act. So you have to have an act, and I am slightly disheartened that in 9 years have passed, Manohar Lal Khattar government, no arrangements were made in Nu. Nu is well known throughout the country. It must be one of the most criminal areas, in my opinion, existing in the country, where you have cow slaughtering is done openly. Nobody can check it. Cyber crime is taking place openly. Nobody can check it. If you go to check it, 5, 6, 7 people, police, they will be attacked. And there are road robbers, there are road hold-up gangs operating from there. So many criminals are there. Action should have been taken. A battalion of Haryana Armed Police should have been posted there. Now, I read today, I spoke on so many channels yesterday also, that India Reserve Battalion should be deployed there. It should have an headquarter in Nu. Land should be provided to them. You have to take all these measures. You open ATS police station, STF police station in the area. You have only 8 police stations to cater to such a big area. You deploy forces, you deploy paramilitary forces, and you take action against criminals. Naturally, the communal temperature will come down very soon. So this is what all is required, and I think now Haryana government has realized the importance of Gurugram, Faridabad, all these places, and now they have realized that they will have to take action. Otherwise, there will be counter reaction, and that will be very bad.
Well, we're also getting in LN Rao, the former DCP from Delhi, into this. Mr. Rao, do you think that the police has created a trust deficit when it comes to the handling of the issue in Nu? In fact, everybody would be asking is, why is it that the police are getting it late when it comes to trying to control this riots? But at the same time, it couldn't. If they were vigilant, it couldn't have happened at all at the first place. But then now they have to, overcome this trust deficit that they have created. That's going to be a tough task, isn't it?
Definitely, it's a tough task. And initially, I can say that there was some lack of intelligence collection because in such a sensitive area, when the procession is being taken out, the police should have taken a stock of what is going on there, what is the mind of people over there, is there any murmuring or any something is going on behind the which is not known to the police. That should have been taken, but there is a local intelligence there, because there is also every state police has their own network of collecting the intelligence. And I fully agree with ex-DGP Shri AK Jain sir, that the police has to be deployed there, because this is the most criminal area of that only Mewat, because we had been raiding that place, not only Haryana police but Delhi police also, because we found so many criminals are living there, and when we investigate the cases, so many criminal cases have been arrested from Nu. But when we go there, we definitely, police also have some time. If we go in a very few number, then the people are the people of that area attack on police. They don't have any fear of law at all. That the fear of law has to be created among the people of that area. Not only the civilians. It's not that everybody is criminal there, but maximum number of people are criminals, and the other people who are not having any criminal background, they are very sophisticated. They are very silent, but even then, some people who are of a criminal mentality, they are going on as they can't. No law is there can prevent their activities. So that high time that now the state government should think about it, that this area be controlled by the police. There should be a fear of law and police there in that area. And in this procession also, when some people try to vandalize in the beginning, it was allowed to be done. I can say that, because initially the police should have taken a very preventive measures, and all the mischief mongers which can be identified by their intelligence network, they should have been arrested, detained prior to that, if they are thinking that these people can create some problem. So after that, no doubt, after this violence has started, then the police has taken up very serious actions, and so many FIRs have been arrested, so many people have been arrested. Then the police, you can say that after the incident has taken place, then the police awakened and the strict action has been taken in that. But I must say that the prevention is better than cure. Prevented, that incident should have been prevented, not after that the commission has serious offense have been committed, and so many people have died, so many people have been injured, lot of property has been put to fire, and even the police station, cyber police station, has not been spared by the mischief mongers and the violators of the law, because there is a maximum number of cyber criminals living in that area. That's why the police definitely made a cyber police station in that area. But because that police station area, cyber police station was their target, because they were taking action against them, they found that this time they should create some difficult time for the police, and especially for the cyber police.
Right, Mr. Rao. I understand that both of you all, as former cops, understand how the failures have occurred and what could have been done better. But Verghese, one thing is that when Manohar Lal Khattar, I think DGP AK Jain had in fact raised that issue as well. When you try to pass a law to recover from the persons who have created the damage to public property, you need that backing of the law. So when Khattar is coming and making that statement, then saying that you will recover from the rioters, what is the backing that he has? Existing laws might not provide that. It can be easily coming under scrutiny, and then you have to have a legislature that is brought, and then trying to put it on a previous case could again have an issue, because you're trying to go back and try to put out a law.
Well, I think what Mr. Khattar is trying to do is trying to do a cover up, in the sense that now he's trying to speak a language, the hard taskmaster kind of a language which he is speaking. But I think, you know, as we have been discussing since yesterday, day before, the biggest challenge for the police was that, you know, that they were simply caught unawares. You know, they didn't read the writing on the wall, and the state had to pay the place, and many people have to pay the price.
It's not only the state. Look, the issue is even the surrounding districts, and probably, you know, there is alert that has been in certain UP districts that borders around, you know, Haryana.
Of course.
Alert has been given. It has affected, you know, the entire region.
It has affected the entire region, and you know, but the thing is that Verghese, you know, it's better safe than sorry. You know, you cannot have a situation, or you cannot have a situation in which you, if you have situation under your control, if you have police patrolling and everything under control, you are keeping a very tight vigil on what can happen, and whether those things are happening or not, which can, you know, take the situation out of control and all. So that vigil is necessary, and for that measure, for that, the police can take any measure to ensure that the situation doesn't get out of control. But I think, you know, what happened day before yesterday, or what happened yesterday and all, it's
but so,
you know,
are these arrests, Brajesh? Let me ask this: are these arrests enough?
No.
No,
I don't think that these arrests are enough. I agree with Mr. Jain that, you know, that there has to be firm message has to be sent that come what may, you cannot take law in your own hand, and for that, you know, you have to increase your police presence. You have to ensure that you know, the message has to be sent that if you take law and order in your hand, there is going to be consequences. You cannot act with impunity. You cannot act with this kind of scenario that, you know, that you can do whatever you want to, or you know, like if your feelings are offended, you can indulge in these kind of acts and go unpunished. I think that message has to be sent by the state government to ensure that this kind of law and order situation does not arise again. But I would, if I was the DGP, if I was the state, I would also launch a complete investigation on the run up to the violence and post violence, because I would also want to understand what are the lapses and why weren't we able to control the violence in the first 5 hours when the state was virtually burning.
So you are actually saying that you need to see the violence from its totality.
Absolutely.
Its totality.
If you don't want a repeat of this,
so
then
do you think right now? So right now there is only trying to control a riot kind of a situation. So
see, right now the effort is to make sure that the situation doesn't spiral out of control, doesn't spread to other parts, and to also ensure that people who have indulged in these riots and all are brought to book. They have been arrested. 169 people have been arrested, out of which 134 are from Nu. Then there are few from Gurugram and other areas. And you know, the purpose is, as you can see, you know, visuals of a few of those who have been arrested from Nu. You know, you can see all these, you know, teenage kids. I mean, it's not like, you know, then they're adults and all. The thing is that, you know, after that, you know, there has to be a post-mortem done to ensure that, you know, that whosoever has fault should be penalized for it, whether it is a police officer who could not gauge the severity of the situation,
and the people who, you know, brought it to this level.
Absolutely.
We have a reaction, political reaction coming in when it comes to the recent happenings. Let's listen into that political reaction.
तो कह सकते हैं जो ये हुड़दंगबाजी हुई है, जो नुकसान हुआ है, वो प्रदेश हित के लिए नहीं है, और आज हम गठबंधन में सरकार चला रहे हैं। हम सब की ड्यूटी बनती है, चाहे हम चुने लोग हों, चाहे हम नागरिक के नाते, चाहे प्रशासन के लोग हों, कि सद्भावना और भाईचारा बना रहे, शांति का माहौल प्रदेश में रहे, तभी प्रदेश आगे, प्रदेश में डेवलपमेंट आएगी। कानून व्यवस्था अब कंट्रोल में है, पूरा जिला प्रशासन मुस्तैदी से काम कर रहा है। अन्य जो और जिलों से भी फोर्सेज वहाँ भेजी गई है, पैरामिलिट्री की टुकड़ियाँ वहाँ गई हैं, हमारी IRB की को भी वहाँ डिप्यूट कर दिया गया है। अब मामला हालात कंट्रोल में है। आने वाले समय में मैं फिर आप लोगों के माध्यम से अपील करना चाहूँगा कि भाईचारे को बढ़ाते हुए, सद्भावना के साथ एक दूसरे का सहयोग करते हुए अपने प्रदेश के हित के लिए और आपसी भाईचारे को बनाने के लिए एक दूसरे का सहयोग करें। क्योंकि कल भी इदारे से चौड़ी लगी हुई है, छूट दी गई थी कि लोग अपना जो रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी में जो घर में जो सामान की जरूरत हो वो ले लें। और इंटरनेट पे भी ये अफवाहें लोग तरह तरह की गलत उस पर ना डालें, जिससे गलत संदेश या गलत मैसेज आए, उससे भाईचारे को कहीं ना कहीं ठेस पहुंचती है। और कानून कार्रवाई सरकार के द्वारा की जाएगी, जो भी इसमें दोषी पाया जाएगा उसको बख्शा नहीं जाएगा। देखिए, मैं ये मानता हूं, जब ये धर्म के नाम पर या जातीय दंगे होते हैं तो तो कहीं ना कहीं उनका नुकसान होता है, मैं पहले भी बता रहा हूँ आपको। लेकिन मैं फिर बार बार आपको ये कहना चाहूँगा कि इन चीज़ों से हमें अफवाहों से बचना है। आज हम सबको मिलके ही आज इस प्रदेश को आगे बढ़ाना है, और जो चाहे हमारे हिंदुस्तान में हिंदुस्तानी है, चाहे आज हरियाणा में रहने वाले हरियाणवी हैं, हम सबकी ड्यूटी बनती है अपने अपने क्षेत्र के लिए, अपने गांव के लिए, अपने प्रदेश के लिए। कुछ लोग इसका फायदा उठाना चाहते हैं, उस फायदे को जो लेने वाले लोग हों उनकी जो भावनाएं हैं उनसे अपने आप को हमने बचा के चलना है, और एकता का प्रतीक देना है और प्रशासन का साथ देना है। मैं फिर ये कह रहा हूं कि अगर इसमें जो भी लोग इसको इंटेंसली कर रहे हैं या गलत तरीके से इसमें जो से सोशल मीडिया के माध्यम से हो इसको उकसाने का काम करेंगे, सरकार पूरा उसका एक एक संज्ञान लेने में लगी हुई है और उन पर कार्रवाई होगी। देखिए, उनका बयान मैंने सुना नहीं है, लेकिन प्रदेश के लॉ एंड ऑर्डर मेंटेन करना हमारी सरकार की जिम्मेवारी है और उसको हम करने में लगे हुए हैं।
अभी तक जो कार्रवाई हुई है उससे आप कितना सेटिस्फाइड हैं?
देखिए, कार्रवाई हुई है, मैंने पहले ही बताया कि पूरे प्रशासन मुस्तैद है, सरकार के हर डे वाइज रिपोर्ट हमारे सामने आ रही है और उस पर जहां जहां जो व्यवस्था की जरूरत है उसको हम करने में लगे हुए हैं। कानून व्यवस्था दुरुस्त की जाएगी।
Well, let's go on to the next aspect of this talk that we were having. Whenever there are disturbances in some parts of the country, there is a local shutdown of internet which can be extended to a state level if the administration wants to. Now, in Nu and Manipur, one of the first things that the administration did was to clamp down on the internet, which it believes will be used for spreading misinformation, hate, and also gather up mobs that can cause harm to life and public as well as private property. Now, currently there is an internet ban and it affects almost 4 districts till August 5th when it comes to the Haryana sector. Now, the internet shutdown is allowed under the temporary suspension of telecom services, public emergency and public safety rules of 2017, which is published under the Indian Telegraph Act of 1885. Now, it's a very old act and there's a provision that has been put for internet clampdown under that. Now, according to the 2017 rules, telecom services may be temporarily shut down in a zone for up to 15 days at once. So that is how the rule can be implemented. With this to say that for 15 days there can be a complete internet shutdown if the administration thinks it has to be done. Now, here in Haryana, there has been a small window that has started from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. onwards for the internet services to be restored. Why the government is doing this is because the CET hall tickets have to be downloaded. So for that period, a grace period of 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. has been done so that students appearing for the state CET exams can download their respective hall tickets. For that, they've given a small window of opportunity, but after that, the internet clampdown will be coming in again. Now, we are also joined in to discuss about this as well. We have Pavan Duggal, who is an advocate at the Supreme Court and a cybercrime expert, who will also be joining us on Zoom on this. But Brijesh, let me come to you first. You know, whenever we think about violence, disturbances in the area, the first thing that comes is internet shutdown. And then when we talk about internet shutdown, India is one of those countries, you know, in the last year, at least, I think almost 86 cases of internet shutdown has been reported. Before that, it was 106, I think, internet shutdowns have been reported as of now. So, internet shutdown has been part and parcel to control violence. But at the same time, many of them say that the sudden internet shutdowns tend to affect with the digital India aspect as well, where, you know, many companies tend to in fact face that trouble. Because most of them try to work on the internet factor, they try to trade on internet, they try to use most of their daily activities on internet. Now, all our activities have come onto the internet, our payments, as well as orders, everything is, our businesses are on the internet. So it does tend to affect day-to-day life, but this is an inevitable sword that we have to swallow.
Well, you know, there's no doubt that you are inconvenienced when there's an internet clampdown. But the fact also is there, Verghese, that the kind of role internet plays in flaring up of certain situation is also cannot be discounted. You know, the connect is so much. Like if you were talking about Manipur, the fact is that, you know, one of the key flare-ups, you know, the 3-4 key flare-ups, the video which came out was a result of a WhatsApp message which was circulated in many, which later turned out to be a fake WhatsApp message, which says that a Maiti woman has been brutally hacked to death, and the case was of West Bengal. And that message was circulated, leading to massive flare up and leading to large scale violence, and police had to really work triply hard to contain the situation. The same is with what happened in Nuh. I'm not saying that that is the only thing, but one of the key catalyst part was played by the WhatsApp messages which were circulated on Facebooks, which was circulated through WhatsApp and all, and which led to this massive flare up in Nuh and adjoining district. So what police tends to do is they tend to overdo it. But I cannot discount the fact that the kind of our lives are integrated with internet to a level where everybody, we see the internet is more glued to your body rather than most of the other things. And with the kind of fake messages and the problem of fake messages and incendiary messages which is there, one WhatsApp messages can cause 10 times more harm than any other statement or speech or a rally can.
So let me get in Pavan Duggal into the discussion as well. Pavan Duggal, do you see internet bans being a double-edged sword? On one side, we are trying to promote connectivity, electronic feasibility about carrying on with our businesses, making it more convenient. But on the other side, the same facility is being used by rioters, especially like in Nuh or in Manipur, to gather mobs, to organize violence. So when an internet clampdown happens, it completely affects us on both sides. It also affects our ability, when we talk about digital India and digitization, it also affects that ability of ours to be convenienced or better integrated. But at the same time, when law and order kicks in, it disrupts the entire process itself. So where can we draw a balance in this? Is it that we have to live with it, that internet shutdowns are going to be there when there is disturbances in areas?
Well, internet shutdowns are often relied upon by sovereign governments as part of their sovereign functions so as to protect public order and public unrest. But having said that, you have to realize that things have dramatically changed post-COVID-19. Now, internet is not just an integral part of our lives, it's the foundation of our day-to-day communication and business activities. So the moment you are going to shut down an internet for ostensible law and order purposes, you have to understand the kind of a collateral impact it's going to have, because all the businesses, all the offices, all commercial activities in that particular area are going to come to a grinding halt, which can itself be a loss ranging from a few crore rupees every minute to a much, much more bigger figure. So in a scenario like this, whenever a government is faced with the issue as to whether it should order an internet clampdown, it must now try to adopt a golden balance. Prior to COVID-19, it was a default option. Anything happened, you just first switch off the internet and think that everything is hunky-dory. That still was not the complete key for a massive success. There were still indirect ways how this entire ban could be mitigated against. But having said that, now post-COVID-19, I think governments will have to be extremely slow. Yes, in a scenario like this, when it's prejudicially going to impact national sovereignty, security and integrity, the government has the right under the law to go ahead and block internet, but it should be a resort that should be resorted to at the least possible opportunity, not as a matter of given default. Just because the law allows you does not mean you should be able to do it. In fact, the maximum you can actually postponing the go ahead and clamp down on the internet, the better it will be. Let's try to look at other mechanisms of how we can potentially avoid communal hatred and other related issues. But all said and done, it's the subjective call of the relevant government at the relevant time. They have the power, they want to do it, they can do it. However, in public interest, in broader public opinion and in the interest of the nation at large, a golden balance will have to be obtained and maintained before or between two competing interests. One, the interest of the sovereign government to go ahead and protect law and order. On the other hand, to also go ahead and protect legitimate, bona fide commercial activities and communications that are taking place. Just because there are a couple of handful of miscreants who are going ahead and misusing the internet does not mean that you deprive the majority of the law-abiding population to access to internet. So I think it's a difficult decision, but again, no golden principles, each case to its own facts.
In fact, now let me get in AK Jain, former DGP for Uttar Pradesh. AK Jain, how do you see it? That when Pavan Duggal says that we should not look at it as the default option and probably, see it as an option if it is going to become quite inevitable. But do you think that default internet ban is the way forward to control the situation on the ground? Because for you as a person who has to enforce law, how do you in fact see that?
I 100% agree with Mr. Duggal. It is not a solution. It is not a solution if people are misusing internet and if they are spreading rumors, action should be taken against them. There should be proper monitoring of social media. Suspected numbers should be on surveillance, and such people should be booked if they are creating trouble and if they are out to create a communal riot. So you have to create an atmosphere in the district. I don't agree with this internet shutdown at all. You can do it for 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, and when the forces are on the ground and situation is under control, it should be lifted at once.
So you agree that the prolonged internet shutdown is not a solution to this issue of disturbances?
Yes, it should be imposed only for a period when it takes some time for the forces to reach the spot. 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. You can shut down internet for that period. Once forces are there, once they have taken control of the situation, then it should be immediately lifted, because otherwise it leads to a lot of rumor mongering also because the internet is banned. People keep on spreading all sorts of rumors. There are so many other ways when people can communicate with each other in this age, and it should not be resorted to by police for a very long time. I consider it a weakness on the part of administration and police.
Well, it tends to be a weakness. Mr. Rao, how do you in fact see this particular aspect when we talk about internet shutdown?
Look, I fully agree with Mr. Duggal on the point that it should be a balance and golden principle should be levied. No doubt this internet is spreading rumors, but I also agree with Mr. Jain that it should not be having a blanket ban on all the internet in that area. The mischief monger should be identified by way of intelligence that way, because when there was no internet, even then there is such type of violence were controlled by the police and administration. Now there is a shortcut method of that shut down each and every place of this internet. That is not, I think, warranted. No doubt, when there is some seriousness of the incident, for some time it can be. But I must say that the government should and the police should identify those persons who are using that thing. There should be a mechanism of identifying the misusers of this internet. Only then their internet should be banned, or they should be taken to the task, having preventive action against those people who are found to be and suspected to be involved in such type of cases. So the blanket ban on internet for a long time, that is not advisable at all. That the government and the administration should think about it, because the innocent people are being harassed and harmed by this blanket and the long time internet ban. So the police should find out so many other ways and means to control the situation. Not only this, this is the shortcut method of banning this internet in that area.
Okay, Mr. Duggal, you're a cybercrime expert as well, and you probably understand much more when it comes to that region. Is it possible to, in a region itself, because even I just want to understand, to selectively impose bans in only certain areas, like not complete district, but is it, can we do it on a selective basis? Do we have softwares, or do you have the technology to do on a very localized selective basis?
We have the relevant technology by means of which we can actually focus and limit the internet shutdown to a very, very small, narrow geographical boundary. But most of the time, the service providers would tend to come up with a lame excuse that they can't do this particular thing because it's going to take more effort, energy, and expenditure. So more often than not, they say, please ban the internet in the entire area because it's convenient with me. But by and large, the technology very well exists. And I think as we now go forward, the government will have to quickly understand and utilize the efficacy of surgical internet shutdowns in a very, very systematic manner in very, very small geographical areas. because otherwise shutting it down for other legitimate users is ultimately going to expose the government to even more litigation, because more and more people are now getting aware. They are getting conscious of the fact that if you are going to deprive me of my fundamental right to access the internet, I'm going to take the state to court. More so when I am not myself either a perpetuator of any illegal activity, and more so when you have other efficacious remedies and processes available to deal with the potential law and order situation. Now, the moment the forces are on the ground, that's for a short period of time, the internet shutdown can be detained, but the quicker it's lifted, the better it is ultimately in terms of winning over the confidence of the people in the concerned area, that look, they're able to connect with the outside world, with the government agencies, using the internet rather than being bolted on into their own homes. So I think we have to now, as we go forward, look at more innovative ways of how to deal with these problems. Internet shutdowns till now have been, shall I say, been accepted, but now I expect more and more litigation coming in post COVID-19 against these arbitrary random shutdowns, and then the courts will be then forced to judicially review every internet shutdown and say whether it was actually required or not. And in case if it was not required, then the relevant governmental official ought to be identified, and appropriate responsibility and accountability for the same also needs to be fulfilled. This assumes more significance because already the government is the biggest intermediary under the Information Technology Act 2000. It is itself required to exercise due diligence while it discharges its obligations under the law. And now, with the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill being laid before the monsoon session of Parliament, the government is going to have additional responsibilities. So now, we'll have to quickly realize that internet shutdowns is going to be a double-edged sword. The rarer they are used in exceptional cases, the better it will be. Otherwise, there'll be potential exposure for the government, the relevant officers, and the relevant stakeholders in such kinds of situations.
I'm just trying to also understand the kind of logistics that's involved. So you're telling me that we are dependent on the internet service providers to actually give in a shutdown. So the government cannot override them as such. Is that the case?
No, the government has all the power to do so. The government can override, and the government can determine, look, please shut down the internet in this small area of 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers. That's all.
Okay.
Rather than shutting it down in a complete district. The government has the power, and in case if the service providers don't really comply with it, they violate not just their license conditions, but more significantly, they get stripped of their statutory exemption from legal liability as intermediaries under the Information Technology Act 2000, thanks to the IT News 2021, which have been updated as on 6th of April 2023. And as a result, they also potentially get exposed for being prosecuted for offences under the Indian Penal Code and under the Information Technology Act 2000. So the government is well within the powers. The quicker we sensitize the government that please utilize these powers only at the bare minimum extent possible to the minimum area that's required geographically, the better ultimately it's going to be. And let's force the service providers to implement appropriate measures, to implement the go-ahead, or as far as the specific geographical area limitation of internet shutdowns is concerned.
So, Mr. Duggal, I'm trying to also further understand now, if something of an internet shutdown has to be made, if it is coming from the police directly to the service providers, I mean, is that a possible communication that can be done from a station, for example, a circle inspector level onwards, or should it go through a series of red tapeism, which our country is very famous for, and then go as an instruction to the service provider? Is that the circuit that is there, or can be a direct communication? Just to understand what the existing law allows, or the structure allows.
The existing law allows for appropriate checks and balances, which means they have not wanted to give this particular power to the police. Why? The potentiality of this power being misused is going to be very high. That's the reason why it has to be going in the form of a specific power that's only given to the relevant government. That power can only be exercised in accordance with specified rules. The rules specify a particular process, a decision-making process. Decision has to be in writing. There has to be reasons for the same before such a internet shutdown can be ordered. Because why? Tomorrow, when it gets challenged in a court of law, it can potentially be shown as to why the government was justified in ordering the said lockdown. The moment you're going to give up this power to all kinds of police officers, you'll find complete mayhem, complete anarchy coming in, and ultimately the very objectives of either the government or the Constitution or the Information Technology Act 2000 are not going to be fulfilled.
Well, that's quite interesting take, because when the violence happened in Noon, the violence had spread into Gurugram area, and Gurugram is considered to be, you know, the highlight area for Haryana when it comes to its economic potential. You have a lot of tech companies that are there in Gurugram. So is it possible to have an internet that is completely meant only for the central business district that does not, you know, shut off when we have a situation like this?
I think it's very much possible. The government needs to realize that there are some areas which are our showcase areas for the rest of the world. So assuming you have a internet shutdown and then that affects entire Gurugram, which is now where most of the multinationals and big corporates are located, that suddenly starts pushing a negative prejudicial impact on the image and reputation of India. That maybe we potentially need to do our homework more. Therefore, vis-a-vis these nerve centers of cyber activity or cyber connectivity, I believe those need to be specifically retained in terms of the internet connectivity. It would also be a good idea to even go ahead and declare some of these areas and as critical infrastructure areas. Why? Because you don't want internet to be stopped under any circumstances in these kinds of areas. But for that, appropriate rules have to be prepared. For that, appropriate political will of the government is required in this direction.
Let me get in AK Jain into this discussion as well. Well, you heard what Duggal has saying, that we cannot give it to the police officers, and of course it has to go through a circumstitious route, because there is a possibility of this power given to the police officer being completely misused. So that could be a possibility that is there. But do you also agree that the police shouldn't be having that power? There should be some intermediary like the government itself trying to give it. But when that is the case, how do you think that the concept of a surgical internet shutdown can be implemented? Because it is the local police who would be knowing which areas should be this thing. That information has to be passed on, and then the service providers could be able to. But if that, you have to wait till then. The officer on the ground to have some kind of an internet clampdown has to wait till then. That waiting period could be crucial, isn't it?
Senior officers are always aware of such incidents taking place in the district. They know where the trouble is brewing, where the law and order situation is there. They can always guide the government through district magistrate or directly through DGP that the internet shutdown should take place in such and such police station areas. It can be done, and there is absolutely no problem in it. And I agree with Mr. Duggal that direct powers should not be given. Such draconian powers should not be given to local SHOs. It should be dealt at very senior level in the state government.
AK Jain for giving your opinion, and as well as Mr. Rao and Duggal for joining us. Thank you, Brijesh, also for in fact joining us and giving us a complete overview when it comes to the internet ban as such, and when it comes to the situation in Nu. Of course, small updates. There has been arrests that have been carried out, especially, but more could follow. 83 FIRs have also been registered. But on the other side, we have a News Plus documentary, Smart New World. It shows how climate change is transforming the way we feed ourselves. Future farmers face a big challenge feeding everyone on the earth while being kind to the planet. Could genetically modified food be the answer? Watch this documentary to find those answers. That's on the other side.
China won't let us rest easy on our borders, but they will keep flooding our markets. What does Xi Jinping really want?
I think he wants the Indian market, no doubt about it. It's really a matter of showing their dominance.
India's great Chinese conundrum.
Nobody can contain it. Not the United States, not China, not anybody else.
Frenemies. Streaming now.
Our climate is changing.
Climate change.
Climate change. Climate change. Climate change.
The earth is getting warmer.
We are in a life or death struggle for our own safety today and our survival tomorrow.
Rising sea levels are damaging coastlines.
We're standing at an inflection point in world history.
This is not about some expensive, politically correct green act of bunny hugging or blah, blah, blah.
Climate change is the defining crisis of our time.
People and nations are